Good afternoon, everybody. Little update on the car. We just finished the rear brakes on both sides, so you can see the driver's side there. Then over here, you can see I just finished up the passenger side. So I set those up like I was telling you in the last video. I adjusted the arm so that the handbrake now works and the amount of resistance is on there correctly. So now we're gonna bleed the brakes. Are we gonna bleed the brakes today, or are we doing that tomorrow? Sure, so I'm gonna have my dad help me out bleed the brakes. The purpose of bleeding the brakes is, since we're putting in new fluid, just to release the air out of the system. You just wanna pump the pedal a few times, get pressure up in the system, then you're gonna release a couple valves. That way it has the right amount of pressure and clamping force on the brakes. We're gonna do that. You can do it by yourself if you have a power bleeder, which we have, but we'll do it the traditional way. We just pump in the brakes, I think. All right, before we even get started, you gotta remember to attach your brake lines first. Make sure that these are in. Mine weren't, so we're just gonna go ahead and tighten these guys down with a little crescent wrench or open wrench. Now that our brake lines are all on, we're gonna start bleeding. The way you actually wanna bleed is you wanna go farthest from the brake reservoir as you can. So you wanna work outside it. Obviously the farthest distance from the res is gonna be the rear passenger, and we're gonna go rear driver, and then we're gonna go front passenger and then front driver. If you don't know how brakes work off of hydraulic fluid. And by pumping the brakes, by putting pressure on the brakes, it creates pressure into the hydraulic cylinder, which uses the density of the liquid to create pressure in the lines, which then presses down on the brake pads and squeezes and stops the car. In bleeding the brakes, we're trying to make as clean of a system without air bubbles as possible. The way you let the air out after you pump the brakes is there's little bleeder nipples. He's got the wrench on that one there. And then on the aftermarket ones, they're just up top here. So I'm gonna set you down here, and then I'm gonna pump the brakes, and then he's gonna let out some of the air. You all set?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just pumping until pressure builds in the system. You going?
Good.
My hold?
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Go ahead and give us a pump.
All right.
This guy.
Yeah, I have zero pressure on the pedal. And then obviously, since there's no fluid in the system, we're just gonna top off the reservoir as we go. All right, next up we're gonna do the rear driver's side. You going?
Yeah, hold it.
Oh, hold. And while I'm holding, he's just going over here and releasing the air pressure out from that bleeder nipple. And we do it again. The more you do this, the more tension and pressure is gonna build up on the pedal, and that's a good sign. So like I was saying, the front side for disc brakes, it's the same idea, except you're bleeding off of the caliper instead of behind the drum. You can see this little thing that my dad's holding. Normally that's a power bleeder, and what that does is when you release the pressure, it actually sucks out all of the air using the air compressor. We're actually just using it as a reservoir right now. So we hook the hose up to the bleeder, and when he releases pressure, the excess fluid and bubbles all go into there. That way they don't go everywhere. After consultation of the manual, on these ones you bleed the outboard screw first and then the inner board. And you make sure that the bottom ones are tight, or else you'll get air into the system. I put the seat in here because I got tired of standings. You can go ahead and pump it until there's pressure and hold, and he's gonna release it like so. So on this side we have our little reservoir, so we're gonna cap off this bleeder nipple, and you can see the actual hex release valve is right here. I'm gonna set this here. I'm gonna have him pump it a couple times and hold it. So is it open or closed right now?
No, it's closed, right?
Closed right now? So have you pump it now? Yeah. Go ahead, pump it. If you don't see any bubbles, that means we're good. We're trying to get the bubbles out. All 4 corners are now bled. Again, it's just a matter of putting tension, putting pressure in the system by pumping the brakes, then releasing all of the air out of it through the release valve, closing it again, repressurizing, getting the air bubbles out, repressurizing, etc., etc. Starting from farthest away from the reservoir and slowly moving in. What my dad was just explaining was when you're setting the drag on the rear drums, if you think about it, there's 2 brake shoes here that expand. So sometimes if you're driving and you feel hesitation, it's because your drag isn't set wide enough, because when you hit the brakes, you gotta imagine that the pads have to extend, let's say twice the distance that they're supposed to. What you wanna do in that case is reach in with a screwdriver, adjust that ratcheting arm that we did in the last video. That way it moves the shoes closer to the inside of the drum. So once you hit those brakes, the pads barely have to travel. They just gotta touch the outside and it'll stop the car. That's all set up. Brakes are all bled. Now we could toss some wheels on and I guess test them out and then throw it on our trailer and take it to paint. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it was helpful. I know it was a short, kind of quick informational video. I hope it helped though. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. Drop a comment. I hope you guys are liking the how-to videos. We got plenty more content coming soon. So for now, TZ on me, TZ on 3. 1, 2, 3. TZ.